back to the Real Recovery Show. Today's episode I'm really excited about because I have a good friend that's back from, my God, were you on episode 2, 3, 4?
One of the first ones.
One of the very first ones.
Very first ones, yeah.
Right. What were we talking about back then? We were talking about helping somebody else.
Helping others.
Yeah, and because we both had a common friend who was
yes.
in a prolonged relapse.
Yep.
After moving to another state.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow.
We went through that together, and then we're like, we should do a show on that, and then
That's right.
It became that.
That's right.
And
that feels
70s,
like that was forever ago.
It was, because this has been now 70-something episodes,
wow.
and now you're back. But she has such an incredible story that it warrants having a show just on her story, because it is very inspiring. And so we're going to do that today. So Michelle's here. How much time do you have now, sober?
I will have 5 years in August.
5 years in August.
I know.
Wow.
Hence the 555.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So the 555 is because
Year 5. We're just throwing it into tradition. You
know? Okay.
All the good juju. All of it. Good juju.
All of it.
And it reminds me.
Yeah.
I put it on every morning like a shield of armor.
Oh,
Year
nice.
5.
That's
Let's
beautiful.
go. Getting my marbles back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they do say that when you reach 5 years sobriety that you get your marbles back. I don't know where that came from. I don't know who made it up.
But I better get some marbles this year.
Yeah, and we don't have, people ask us all the time if we sell marbles in the recovery store.
Yeah.
And I just imagine a whole bunch of marbles on the floor, you know, because it's a bunch of alcoholics
I don't
and
want to
addicts.
lose my
like,
marbles again, so I'll
dropping
hold on to
stuff.
those.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't do it, you know, like maybe that's a little negative, but maybe, I don't know.
maybe for me we'll get some marbles.
Yeah, okay, we'll get you marbles, but we won't do it at the store. All right. Well, anyway, so as we normally do, we start off with what it was like for little Michelle, and the headspace you were in when you were a child, and how you viewed the world, so that we can get like a baseline of like what ended up being the headspace that led you to want to use drugs or alcohol. Okay. So what was it like?
I had a great childhood.
Did you?
I really honestly did. My parents were married for 55 years.
Wow.
I went to a normal high school. I would have went to a Catholic high school if there was one in my town, but there wasn't. So I was raised by a very strict Irish Catholic mom. But my childhood was good. Like, we took family vacations, and I didn't have any trauma growing up. Like, I literally had an amazing childhood. I was forced to go to church every Sunday and catechism classes every Sunday night, which I'd never, like, I was there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't present. I never heard a message, ever.
So then why did you say that you would have gone to a Catholic
school? Because my mom would have made me.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, she would have been like, you're going. She went to a Catholic high school and stuff.
So there was lots of love in your house?
So much love in my house.
And it was fun. Where did you grow up?
Coldwater, Michigan.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Way down here. You know how those Michigan people do that. Yeah, small little town. 200 people in my graduating class. Yeah, life was good. It was easy.
Okay.
There was no stress.
So what happened? What ended up happening for you to start drinking or?
I didn't even start drinking until I was 31.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was big into fitness in my 20s. So it was very important what I put in my body at that time. So I was just, I went out with my friends like all the time, and I never drank. I never drank until I got divorced from my
What kind of fitness were you into?
Bodybuilding.
Oh, interesting.
I competed.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I competed in bikini back in the day.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah. So I was always very careful what I ate, how I ate. I drank a lot of water, and I never drank alcohol. Never. And then I had my 2 kids at 25, still into fitness. Life was good. And yeah, I mean, my kids are 10 and a half months apart.
That's beautiful, because now we're going to find out that even with a childhood that was great and full of love and
trauma-free, all of it.
No drinking, no drugs. Parents weren't drinking. Nobody drank in the house?
Barely. Maybe like Christmas.
Okay. Did their parents ever drink?
Yeah, like I remember having kitty cocktails when we would go on vacation. Our vacation was going to the UP to see my grandparents. And they would make cocktails, and they'd make us kitty cocktails. So like little frozen drinks with the umbrella and everything. But
the little cherry.
Yeah, but I never saw like anybody
drink
falling over drunk or
having issues.
Like no, never.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean there was always like alcohol in the house, but I never saw my parents drink unless
This
it was
is great.
Christmas.
This is great that we're having this kind of story start, because a lot of times the beginning is usually there's trauma, somebody touched somebody said something that they shouldn't, parents got divorced, parents were
Right.
using alcohol or drugs, but sometimes it's not that at all.
No.
Sometimes there's a childhood that doesn't even touch on that world.
Not at all.
Okay.
So that's why when, I started realizing, like, I had a problem. But I was sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I had to pick out anything about my childhood, it was that I was sheltered. Like,
Small town.
yes, and hush hush, if something did go wrong, it was tucked under the rug.
Okay, so people weren't
And it-
talking.
No, not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
all right.
So,
So, I mean, that does lend something to it, because when you have the characteristics of somebody who even grows up in a dysfunctional childhood is that they learn don't talk, don't trust, don't feel,
Right.
And so here you are, you did not grow up in a traumatic childhood,
Not at
but
all.
there was the element of we don't talk about it.
Right.
That what it looks like is more important than what it is.
right.
Mm-hmm.
We had, like, a couple bums in our little town, and it was just like, oh, you don't, you just don't talk to them. And just swept under the rug. It was never. I would never be like, "Why is that person in the trench coat drinking out of a brown paper bag?" You know what I mean? It was just like I'd look, and my mom would be like, and that was it. End of
Interesting.
discussion.
Interesting.
Because I didn't question what my parents told me. I believed
Right.
them to be great role models, which
That's
they
great.
were.
I have no idea what that experience is, but that's
Right.
wonderful.
And a lot of people I know
Yeah,
don't have that
right.
experience. So when I do share that experience, people are like, "Wow."
yeah.
So when it came time to need help, I didn't know what to do
Mm.
because I didn't.
And especially
Nobody,
with
like,
the
I
with
knew
the
nobody.
programming of we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So God forbid I am the person my mom doesn't even want to acknowledge exists.
Mhm.
I now have a problem.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Mhm.
It's interesting. It's always interesting to me how the mind lends itself, and you don't even realize that this thing that happens that you think is so insignificant becomes something that stops us from being able to take care of ourselves
Mhm.
before it gets to a point where it's too much.
Right. Because we don't talk about it.
Don't talking. I mean,
Yeah.
in recovery, even going through the whole process of recovery, one of the big, huge parts of it, big and huge parts of it, is that we learn to talk about stuff that we were going to take to the grave.
100%.
We are as sick as our secrets, right? And so a mind that feels like it can't share with anybody gets toxic
Yeah.
and uncomfortable in our own
Because
skin.
you just keep burying it and burying it and burying it.
And the
burying
need
it.
to be perfect.
100%.
Yeah. That's just...
If that was anything I had to pick apart, it was your perfect little child.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, wonderful.
But
Okay.
that's it.
So what happened then? You're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have kids.
Yeah.
You're bodybuilding, or did you?
No, I'm
You're
still
still
going
bodybuilding.
strong. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then my husband was in it with me. We competed together.
How interesting.
Yeah, and then he started cheating on me.
Wow.
Yeah, and he adopted my kids.
Mm.
So he wasn't even their biological dad.
Oh, wow.
He adopted my children. So we had this incredible bond, And I was like, we worked on it. We gave it 3 years.
How did you find out?
I got him drunk because I knew his honesty would come out when he was drunk.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then he went upstairs to get more firewood, and his phone rang, and I answered it, and it was her. And I was like, okay. But I still worked on it. I gave it 120% before I walked away. But that's when I started drinking. That's the first time I
And so
drank.
when that was happening, did you feel like you could talk about what was happening with him to anybody? Did you tell anybody?
Not really. No,
So you
we
just
went to
kept it-
counseling.
You kept it just between the two of you and
Mhm.
the therapist.
I didn't tell my parents. We didn't tell his parents.
Right.
He was raised Irish Catholic. I was raised Irish Catholic.
And you told your friends?
a couple,
Yeah.
but
But
it
you
was
kept
still
it close to the chest.
very much so.
Yeah.
I
It
didn't
was
want
nothing to
everybody
let
knowing
everybody. Yeah.
my dirty laundry.
Yeah.
What I was hurting from.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So I started shoving it down with
Yeah.
wine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fascinating.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is fascinating where it starts, because when we think about the solution, so this is what I love about recovery. If you want to know what your particular problems were, find out what your solutions end up being, because the solutions in recovery end up being like the exact answer to what the problems were. Right? I just got the chills. It's like if my biggest challenge and then my biggest reward is looking at myself and then sharing it with another person. If that becomes like the biggest thing, then I have to realize that I was starving for that I was feeling 100%. So separate from everyone, that I was keeping everything and I could still, if I'm not careful in my recovery, do that default behavior of not wanting to talk about what's going on. And granted, I also have learned, though, it's healthy to not be focused on the negative and throwing up in groups and whatever like that. But if I'm not really sharing with somebody and really talking about what's really going on in my life, I start to feel separate.
Yes.
And I start to feel like things are a little bit too much up to me and overwhelmed and toxic.
Everything gets very heavy.
In recovery.
Very heavy.
So it's to find out what it is that lent us into our addictions is really helpful to keep an eye on that. Not just that we did the addictions, and that we don't want to go back to them, but what was driving the bus?
Right.
What was driving the bus for you? And so we're finding out right here, what some of it was and what your tendency could even still be if you're not careful.
100%. Yeah, I didn't realize that, but now that I've been in recovery for a while, I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. I mean, we had to dig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, everything was great.
Because there's so many layers of nothing to see here, nothing to see here, nothing to see here.
So many.
So many layers that even you're convinced that there's nothing to see here. Because that's what happens. It's a lie we tell ourselves first and then other people. I don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Why would I need to talk about it?
And I didn't come from a divorced family, and neither did my kid's dad.
So you were staying.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to work it out.
I had to.
So what happened with your first, what happened to the father of your kids?
He left a month before our daughter was born, and I never heard from him again.
Wow, that must have been hard.
He just walked away. I didn't have a choice at the time. I had a 10-month-old, and I was giving birth to a baby girl. I had to step up and take care of my kids. I don't know how I did it, but I did.
He just left.
He just left.
And you don't know why?
He was big into drugs.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you would be attracted to people who either did drugs or to drink of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting. Yep.
And
he's still the same. He's reached out to me later on in life, and I'm just like, wow. I'm we're solid. We're good.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're alive or dead, honestly. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Because when Rudy adopted the kids, my promise to him was he was dad, and that biological dad would just remain unheard from.
But the kids.
But he never tried to reach out.
But the kids knew that they were.
The kids never knew.
Oh, they didn't. Do they know now?
Knew. Yeah.
I mean, they have to. We're on show.
Surprise!
Don't tell them to watch.
Could you imagine? I'm sorry, kids.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. So you gave it the therapy. You gave it. Hey, you're married. This is a serious commitment. You adopted the kids. I'm devoted. Whatever it is that just made that happen. Let's try. Let's solve whatever this was so that we could be okay.
Yep.
But what made you say no? I can't do this anymore.
I wanted to die. I literally was in so much pain. I was laying downstairs on the weight bench with his Glock in my hand, drinking. And then I heard my kids cry for me, like, Mom. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And the next day I packed up and walked away. But I had given 120% first.
I believe you.
But I was in this deep, dark spot.
Yeah.
I wanted to end it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do this.
Because you know why? And it's not saying that, I'm unfortunately one of those people too that has given it everything before I call it.
Yeah.
And I think I do that so that there's no doubt in my mind, so that future me doesn't have to go, what if I would have tried harder?
I should have. Yeah.
What if I would have stayed? And so
the ifs.
I will exhaust the possibility of that being a thing.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, you know, and then there
Yeah.
are things where I've like been super loyal and I've given a lot of my attention and it ended up working out, and so that just gives the wrong message to the part of me that wants to stay in there and like work it out. But
I gave it 3 years.
yeah, and so but I could tell you're very satisfied that you really tried, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and that does lend itself, but I could picture you with this idea in it that, you know, we don't need to tell all the people, you know, this is just my thing to hold on to.
Yep.
I'm gonna walk through this,
Yep.
you know, and you're drinking because it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable to hold on to all of that just by yourself.
I just wanted to numb it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted it to
Mhm.
stop. And
They-
for whatever reason
yeah.
at that point, it gave me relief, you know? I didn't have to deal with it. I didn't have to think about it.
Mm.
I could
Yeah.
totally block it out.
I could so see that.
Yep.
You know, and there's a level of incrementally larger and larger, a level of self-abandonment that comes in martyring and putting yourself in a position where you just are going to keep giving your all to it, even though you're not getting what you need out of it. You know, even though the other person isn't even seeming like they're moving at the speed or the self-reflection and responsibility that's needed for that kind of shift. Because relationships have recovered from infidelity, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
takes the person who performed the infidelity to really like do a soul search and a shift to be able to make that amends in the relationship for the other person to not be afraid of that anymore.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, and the forgiveness that has to also happen because the other person, I mean, forgiveness happens regardless, but to stay in a relationship
Yeah.
with forgiveness in a healthy way would be because the person has shown evidence that their behavior is changed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and if you
yeah.
can't trust,
No.
where's the intimacy?
Yeah.
So you're in a relationship, the relationship you're in that doesn't have the sense of safety and security and intimacy and knowing that this person has your back legitimately, and you're in that relationship and you're not talking to other people
No.
other than a therapist, and so it's all you doing that. I mean, one could easily put themselves in your shoes by giving this description and see why you would be so uncomfortable that if you didn't have another option, another solution, you would want to drink.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was a drinker, so it was around,
Oh,
right?
yeah. He was in, fraternity and U.S. Marshal and, I was always surrounded by it. It just was never an option.
So then you
until I
left,
ran out of options.
and so the problem, of course, isn't the relationship, even though it seems like the relationship, but it's just the prison.
Yep.
But the behavior, being isolated like that, wherever you go, there you are. So now there's more work that needs to get done. You leave the relationship, and it does give a modicum of, okay, empowerment, I'm going to do things differently or whatever like that. But if it was the only thing that was the problem, the drinking would have stopped and life would have been perfect.
Right.
But I suspect it wasn't.
No. No.
I have,
No.
Spoiler, I have
I
a
know.
little bit of
You're
information
so
about her
good
story.
at this. Yeah, no, the drinking didn't stop.
Okay,
It
and then what
didn't get-
happened?
It didn't get any worse, but it just kind of stayed at this even keel.
Mm.
But then everything was on me, so I made sure that, if my kids had to be somewhere, I wasn't drinking. I was still responsible
Were
about
you still
it.
training?
Or
Or is that
a
over?
little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, not as much.
It's kind of hard to do that when you're drinking.
Yeah.
I know people that try
Because
to.
we went to the gym together. Like, that was our
Mm.
thing. We lifted together. We did,
That's hard.
yeah. So I was
It's
just
very
really-
traumatic because
and I just,
your whole life, your whole narrative of your life, your patterns, your discipline, everything is now needing to be changed.
everything.
And one of the things that you loved so much, which I understand because I've been lifting and like, oh my
Mhm.
God, what a high that
It
is.
mentally makes you feel so good all the time. And just even the discipline of eating healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We
Yeah, I
did
totally
all
know.
we
I
meal
do know what you
prep
mean.
together,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden it just shut down and you're kind of like, oh, what do we do now?
So in essence, you kind of threw a little bit of the baby with the bathwater out because now the things that were giving you empowerment and health and
Slowly we're dwindling away. No, I didn't see it at the time because I
Yeah.
was just in function mode,
hmm absolutely,
Now
in
I have
survival mode.
So, oh, yeah. My own income, bills to pay and kids to take care of, and
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day
So
that.
then I moved more into work mode.
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day that it's kind of like you have something wrong with your car, and you know there's something wrong with your car, but you're like trying to fix it while you're on the highway. It's like life is in session.
Yeah.
You know, you have traumas, you have things you need to recover from. You don't have the tools necessarily to process them like we do in recovery.
Yep.
And so, but you're on the highway. You have to go at the speed of the speed limit, you
Yep.
know. And so life's in session, and you're in survival mode because these are the basic things that I gotta make sure no matter what. And there's this sacrifice of the kind of comfortable in our own skin serenity that we're desperate for, that we can't even fathom having because life is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the life, we get so convinced that it's the life around us that's so hard, but it's never the life that's around us. It's the perception. It's what we do with the life that we're living and how we see it, and the
Yep.
tools that we may or may not have, and the people that we may or may not have to process with, right?
Yep.
That really is the game changer.
100%.
And if we don't have those things,
Yeah. What do you do?
what do you do?
Just put one foot in front of the other.
So when did alcohol turn to other things?
It still stayed pretty even keel until I moved out here.
Until Vegas?
Until Vegas.
Uh,
Yeah. And morning cocktails.
mm,
Yeah. You're working with a bunch of hairstylists, or you know, you're on a bridal shoot and everybody's having mimosas.
when did you become a hairstylist in this story?
Fresh out of high school.
Oh, so you were doing that while you were
I've
bodybuilding.
been doing it my whole life.
How interesting. Okay.
My whole life. That's been the one consistent thing is my career.
Okay. And so no more bodybuilding so much.
No.
And now
no,
it's
I didn't really have time.
and now it's the hairstyle, right? Because you have the kids. It's all you.
I'm working.
You're working,
I'm working.
drinking
a lot.
through work, like
Yeah.
morning mimosas.
No, that was later.
Okay.
No, not at that.
Okay.
point.
So later.
Yeah, probably like 40s. We're in my 40s now.
Okay.
So,
And then what happened?
well, I met a new man.
Okay. A drink with legs. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and he turned into my drinking buddy. So then it was just more like, oh, well, he's doing it, so he's having morning cocktails. He taught me how to have morning cocktails. Let's go. And it just became more normal.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was still fine. Like, it was still good.
Okay. And so
I was still in control. I
right.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a routine,
I had a routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
100%.
It's interesting how when we just change something, we put stuff into a routine, but we're able to like now this is a new cog, you know, like we're in
Yeah.
our wheel. We're still doing a routine. Maybe we've let go of some of our healthier habits and we're doing this, but there's still a routine.
Yeah.
That's why when people go, I don't see where my life was unmanageable. Where was my life unmanageable? It's like, well, the unmanageability was partly that there was now a reliance upon alcohol to make this wheel go. That was part of the unmanageability.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you take that out now after we're used to that being the part of the thing, and it's like the wheel doesn't turn so easily.
Yeah, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more like boom, boom.
Yeah, like thud.
Yeah, exactly. Boom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this relationship, and how was he? Was he somebody you felt like you could trust?
Oh yeah, he's been my best friend since I was 5.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have like our preschool pictures
So was
together.
he there?
He's been a part of my life, like all through growing up. Like,
Did he know when you were married that you were cheated on while it was happening?
no,
Did you?
we had lost contact.
You lost contact.
So after high school, we were best friends in high school, all the way through elementary school, high school, best friends.
And
my
was
whole
he
life.
somebody you felt like you could talk to about everything back then, or you were still in that headspace that you're not really talking?
I didn't really talk.
To any- yeah.
We didn't have those conversations.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So when did you? So how old were you? You were in your 40s when you came back together.
39.
39.
Yeah, and I ran into him in a restaurant. And I saw him and I was like, and back in high school we called each other by our last name, so he was Cooper and I was Weiser. He was working and he kept walking by and I'm like following him, and then finally he looked at me and I'm like, Cooper? And he's like, Weiser? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And that was literally it.
That's
Here we are,
amazing.
still together.
That's amazing.
I know.
So, but what ended up
He's a
happening?
saint. He's a saint.
Okay.
Yeah. he took his vows seriously through sickness and through health.
That's beautiful.
100% it is. Yeah. Because I don't know if I would have stayed.
Mm.
If he would have put me through the stuff that I put him through, would I still be here? Probably not.
Mm.
Probably not.
Yeah. It's not about love. It's about what we can handle based on what we're carrying, you know?
Again, he had like a completely different childhood than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What was his like?
divorced parents. His mom was an alcoholic.
Oh, so maybe he was a little more used to what
Yeah.
he brought to the table.
He was probably more used to a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
Disorganized function. Yeah. But
Mm.
his mom's an alcoholic. Well, she's in recovery now.
Oh,
but
nice. Okay.
yeah, she's 20 years, but
Okay.
she left when he was 13. And
So
he-
tell us about this journey that you now have. You now have a partner again.
Yep.
But you guys are drinking all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He-
And your kids are how old now?
14.
Okay.
And my son was living with his dad. And
Okay.
Taylor was living with us.
Which dad? Not the biological
The
one.
adopted
The
dad.
adopted dad.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
he was dad
Okay.
their whole life. They didn't
Right.
find out about bio dad till they were 19.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So he
That
was
was
living
the
there. So
story.
you had less of a overt everyday responsibility because now you were having one child to take care of, and
yeah.
not both of them in the more aggregate way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we moved out here, and he was making good money, so I could stay home, and I didn't have any responsibilities, so I could do whatever
So
I
you
wanted.
stopped hairdressing for a
Yeah,
little bit.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no return to bodybuilding or anything like that?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what'd you do? What happened?
I was just being a mom, you know? And then then I was definitely drinking a lot more throughout the day because I could. I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have any responsibilities. The bus dropped the kid off right in front of, our home. And, yeah, it
Interesting.
started spiraling a little bit.
Yeah. So what ended up happening? What ended up happening where it became like, I mean, it's a problem, but what ended up happening where it became a problem to you? Like where it became like obvious that there's like what happened to yeah.
Well, Taylor decided she wanted to go back to Michigan and live with her dad.
Mm.
And that was her junior year of high school.
And why did she want to do that?
Because I was drinking all the time and I wasn't present.
She said that, or you just
Pretty
knew that?
much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Did she go?
She did go. And I let her go because I knew.
You knew that you weren't
I
able
knew
to
I
show
wasn't
up.
taking care of her the way I should have been taking care of her. She wasn't getting the things and the love and the attention she deserved. So I thought, yeah, go.
And how did your boyfriend? Were you married?
We were married.
Okay.
Husband.
How did your husband see it? About like what was going on? You being at home all day
He-
drinking.
He never said anything.
No, he was good because he had the
was
love
fine.
of his life and
Yeah.
he was out working and
Yeah. Coming
fine.
home and having a
and
great
he
time.
and he thought drinking was fine too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because he grew up with it, you know?
Mhm. Okay, so now you don't have the kids,
Nope.
and now you're a stay-at-home
Then
Wife?
then I got a job. I
Okay.
started working
to just do something.
just to do something, just to get out of the house and
Okay.
stuff. Yeah. And then once I started working, my drinking, it slowed back down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then their senior year, I was like, I'm going to go back to Michigan and be there their senior year.
Okay.
And he was like, all right, go. Like, literally. So I went back their senior year and was back into hairdressing, taking care of the kids, showing up for all their, end of their life stuff for high school,
Mhm.
proms and football and homecoming and everything. So, yeah, back then, drinking occasionally, but not bad.
Okay.
It wasn't bad. It was
Okay.
kind of like normal again. I was like, okay, this feels good. But then I hated being back in Michigan.
Yeah.
And I was like, oof, once you guys graduate, like, mom's out. You know what I mean? And then I came back to Vegas.
Why'd you hate being back there? Because it brought back memories, or?
It was really triggering, but I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
I still feel that way about New York. I
Yeah.
still feel that way.
Like,
And I'm going back and visiting, but like I lived there for 30 years and we want to go back and I want to show my boyfriend about all the places, and he's been to New York before, but I just, I feel like I know that it's a lot of information for me.
Yeah.
You know, I know that there's a lot of, memories, and it's not just it's not just the scenery and the people and whatever like that, because I love New York, I love the people, they're my people, but but I remember the headspace I was in. I remember being suicidally depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember feeling so alone.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that as like a big, huge part of my experience.
It felt
growing up
very
in New
dark while I was back
Very
there.
dark.
Very
And so
dark,
I wouldn't want to live in New York for that reason. But if God wants me to move back to New York, like I've learned not to say I'm never going to live somewhere, because I used to say you can pay me to live in Las Vegas, and then yet here we are.
Here we are.
And I have a totally different experience of Las Vegas. So if you're not in Las Vegas, you need to know it's amazing recovery out here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everybody here lives on the Strip and just focuses on the Strip.
No.
Yeah. All right, so at this point, we're just going to take a quick break so we can just go to a quick commercial, and then we'll come back and we'll hear about what happened and why she finally got to a place that she needed to get into recovery and focus on healing. All right, so we'll see you in a little bit. The Meeting Space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The recovery store in the center of our facility provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the recovery store and the meeting space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal. Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. So before the break, we were talking about the journey to come to Las Vegas, the drinking, and then the drinking slowing down, the kids moving to Michigan, you moving to Michigan,
Yep.
you being back in Michigan,
Oof. Yeah.
and having the memories of how it was like for you back in Michigan come back,
So many memories.
and that became toxic for you. Because you didn't have tools
really
yet.
toxic.
You didn't
I didn't have any tools
couldn't
yet.
process it. And then you came back, you guys, did he move with you?
Nope, he stayed. He
Oh, he
stayed
stayed.
in Las Vegas.
And he was fine with you going?
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. Like I said, he's a saint.
Yeah.
He's a saint.
But why, if he wanted to be with you, I guess because he just wanted your highest good, that this is what you wanted to do.
Because
he
my
supported
main
you.
focus was to be there for the kids.
Right, and he understood.
And he had such a great job here. You know what I mean? It was made it able, so if I did go back to Michigan and didn't work, we would have been fine.
Was it at all him not being with you in Michigan that made it harder to be there, or?
No, I just didn't like being there.
Yeah.
I just had so many, like, just floods of memories came back. And
Yeah,
I just kept
it's hard.
tucking them down
Yeah.
and tucking them down because I wanted to be present for my kids. It was their senior year. I wanted to do prom hair and
Oh, that's
be
cute.
the football mom.
Oh, that's really cute.
Go team, go. Yeah.
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 That's adorable.
Yeah.
But even when people talk about how do you make it through the holidays, and they would talk about going home to their parents or their family, it's like you need to know, like, you're gonna want to be strong and everything, but you're gonna need to know, like, there are some things that could trigger, and so be prepared, and have tools. And that's a thing that we learn in recovery.
Yep.
But just going without any recovery back there with no tools, but
no tools.
The only solution is if it gets too hairy, drink.
Mm-hmm.
So you come back.
And
you didn't drink more there, or did you start to drink more there in Michigan?
A little bit, but nothing.
No big spike.
No.
So you come back to Las Vegas. How old are you now?
43.
Okay. Come back to Las Vegas.
Ish.
You're done with Michigan for now.
Yep. Kids
come
are
back
in college.
Okay. So now what started to happen in your life that
now I had to figure it all out again. And I was like, well,
who are you? What you gonna do?
Yeah, what do I do now that I'm I'm still a mom, but not a full-time mom.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm Michelle.
Yeah.
What do we do with her?
Right.
And who
Which
she is?
even people without addiction struggle with that empty nest syndrome, or what do I do?
Yeah,
I no longer have to focus on someone else. I have to focus back on me. I never really focus on me. What am I going to do?
I didn't have to get up in the morning and send somebody off to school.
No purpose.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to do now? So I came back and started working as a hairstylist in Las Vegas, freelancing on the Strip, doing bachelorette parties and brides, and what are all these people doing?
Drinking.
You can't let a bride drink alone on her wedding day.
Oh my God, sacrilege. Yes.
So bad. So yeah. So it just started becoming every day. A lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said that you had told me once that your father passed away.
Yeah.
And then that was one of the pivotal moments for you.
It was very sudden. It was unexpected. My dad had Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia, so he wasn't well, but he wasn't
about to die.
He wasn't about to die by any means. He was in the hospital, and we were sending him home, and it was this whole discussion on sending him to a nursing home, and I'm like, Mom, you can't take care of him, what do you do? And then she's like, okay, I gotta go, and hung up, and the next phone call was, because I remember I was sitting in Modern Vegan, just ordered my food, and she calls and she's like, your dad's gone. And I'm like, where'd he go? And she's like, he died.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Shh.
There was no warning, he's going home, he's going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the next phone call, he's dead. And I just remembered that feeling, somebody ran right through me.
Mm-hmm.
Right through me, and I just fell to the ground, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to tell him I loved him. All this stuff just bubbled right up to the top of my head. I should have been able to say goodbye. I should have came home.
You
I should
had
have did
a
this.
good relationship with your parents.
Oh, my dad was my hero.
Yeah.
He was everything to me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he was amazing. He couldn't cook, but he made fantastic hot dogs, I have so many great memories. I don't have a single bad memory with my dad.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he was everything to me. And now he's gone. And no goodbyes. No, I love you. Thank you for being amazing.
And no healthy tools on how to process that kind of grief.
Nothing. No. So I started drinking.
And
then I started working 8 jobs. And then I'm like, you know what? Let's get back into bodybuilding. Let's get some healthy habits. Because that's how I would cope.
Okay.
I'd start working out.
And one would think, sure.
Yeah.
You get your
Let's
life.
train for a competition.
Sure. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm working, and my daughter was pregnant.
Oh.
With my first grandson.
Oh, was she married?
Yes, they were married.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now she's pregnant, and she's living back in Michigan, right?
She's in Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's close with she was close by my parents. So, yeah, the next thing you know, it's my daughter's baby shower and my dad's funeral in the same Michigan back in weekend.
Wow.
Same weekend back in Michigan.
Same Michigan back in weekend.
Same Michigan. It is the same Michigan, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same weekend. Baby shower in the morning and then my dad's funeral in the afternoon. Yeah, and I flew a red-eye home, and I can't sleep on a plane to save my soul. And because I didn't drink because I was like, I gotta be together.
White knuckling it.
Oh yeah,
100%.
I think I popped some Benadryl to try to sleep, and I couldn't sleep, and went back home and hit Costco, had the baby shower, and then at that time too, the kid's dad introduced me to his new girlfriend, and it was just so much life all in one weekend, and I came back and I hit it hard. I didn't want to feel. That was so many feelings.
Did you know about his new girlfriend before you got there?
No, but I was happy about it.
You were?
Because the girl that he cheated on me with, he cheated on her with the new girlfriend, and her name was Michelle.
Oh, God.
So I was like, oh, well, she deserved that, you know. So then there's all this that I'm still dealing with on the side, you know, but I don't want to bring that here because...
Right. And how do you... There's not enough room in the mind to compartmentalize all this stuff. When we're so taught to push something under the rug as our basic programming, it's like, okay... You can't think about this right now. You can't feel this. You got to be on for the daughter. You got to be there for the funeral.
Yeah.
And it's like, and what's happening? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that my ex-husband who cheated on me cheated on her with someone else named Michelle, and it's like, and then oh my God, you know,
he just like introduces me to, and she comes up and she's like, I lost my dad just a little while ago. Can I give you a hug? And I'm like, I like her.
Wow.
I like her. Wow. So there's all these feelings.
So much. So much information.
I still loved and respected him. He was a fantastic father.
Oh, that's great.
He was just a shitty husband. But he was a great, great dad.
That's great.
Yeah. When he stepped up to the plate, he stepped up to the plate. So much respect for him.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So.
And you can say that now. Because you've gone through your recovery. I mean, you knew that element of it, but but with all the guilt and all the stuff, and then the not feeling feelings and the anger and the resentment to the person that cheated and all the other stuff, it's like that's hard to have that level of gratitude and compassion. You could tell that you've worked on all this stuff.
Yeah.
For you to say,
I still had a level, but it wasn't like it was in recovery by any means.
Yeah.
We
of appreciation.
So many talks about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Okay.
Yeah. So, Dad dies, and then my daughter, emergency C-section, almost lost her, working like a workaholic. You know, doing all 8 jobs. I didn't have days off, and when I wasn't working, I was at the gym, and when I was doing all that, I was still drinking, and then it just collapsed.
And that, you know, there's a spiritual saying that busyness is a defense against God. It's an interesting concept. Yeah, busyness. You know, like when you just you're trying to outrun your feelings and yourself, and you feel like you're living on some purpose because you're busy, and you get some sense that you're doing so much, so something must be happening, but you don't look down and see that you're on a treadmill. You know, like you don't realize that you're the one who adds all the things. Like, I've done this, you know, and so I used to have this note on one of my refrigerators back in the day where it would say, God gives you what you can handle. If you're overwhelmed, you've taken on the rest. And so I would see that, and I would be if I'm overwhelmed, what is it that I'm adding to my plate? And I could be such a compulsive signer-upper, you know? And to this day, I could say yes way more. Like, remember that movie, Yes Man?
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, I see your hell that you are in because you're saying, but I you know, and they say in recovery, you know, just suit up and say yes. You know, just if somebody asks you to do something in recovery, like, do it. It's like, sure, for you guys, but for me, I'm a compulsive yeser, you know, and so I because I want to be busy, because I want to feel important, because I want to feel like I'm doing something. I want to have control.
Yes.
I don't want to face the other stuff that I don't want to do. I want to face the stuff I do want to do, and so it's a matter of learning to like let go and trust. But
there was no God in my life.
Without God, without tools, and without the ability to feel your feelings, no.
There was no God, no faith. It was my will. All Michelle's will.
Okay, so what happened to make you finally say, you know what, I need to do something? And what made you become aware of recovery? Like, what happened for you to do something about it?
I was going to die. My heart was beating out of my chest. And I knew that if I didn't stop, my family was going to bury me.
Did you go to a rehab?
I did go to a rehab. Okay. I checked in for 30 days.
Okay.
Yep, and I checked into rehab, and they immediately sent me to the hospital. Out here in Las Vegas? Out here in Las Vegas. And they checked me, and they sent me to the hospital because my heart was 256 beats a minute. Yeah. There's
and the detox of it. So what about your liver and all that? Did anything get affected?
No.
Isn't that crazy? Man.
My liver is a champ. I don't know how, because I've had it checked, because just even recently. I'm like, are we sure we're still, like,
the same.
Solid?
Yeah.
And she's like, you're so healthy.
But you ate so healthy too, and
did.
you worked out so much, and there's like other elements that were
still was drinking water throughout it all.
right.
Because I knew I
water,
had to.
Yeah, and alcohol.
That was my diet.
Yeah.
Vodka and water.
I
A little
totally get
splash
that.
of lemon for some fruit.
I totally
Call it
get
a day.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you get out of rehab and you dive into recovery, or
Absolutely, I did.
yeah.
I knew it wasn't an option.
Okay, and this was 5 years ago, or did you have a relapse?
Nope, I've never had a relapse.
Never had a relapse.
Nope.
And you also have never done drugs, right? Or you
Nope.
did? Because why was that again?
I was in a car accident when I was 19. I broke my femur, all my ribs, and my collarbone, so I was on a morphine drip for 28 days.
28
And
days.
I remember how good I felt in those 28 days,
Yeah.
but I remember coming off that morphine, and it was awful. And I was like, I'll never do drugs. And I never did. Somebody would have just said, well, apply that with everything in your life, working out, health-wise.
But
I wouldn't listen
so I used to
anyways.
bodybuild. I used to bodybuild, and then I wasn't doing it for many years, but I became a dancer, and then years later I ended up doing hot yoga, and then got back into bodybuilding for a little bit, and then COVID happened, and then I stopped because I didn't want to do too much, and then I recently got back into it, and I'm doing the leg presses, and as I'm doing the leg press, I stop after my set's done. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, the high that I get from doing it. And then I had two thoughts. I go, why have I not been doing this? And the other thing is, man, I totally get that this could easily be another addiction. It could just chasing that high, the control of it, the release of it, the progress of it, all of it.
Yeah, because I was literally addicted to everything, at this point.
There's a lot of addiction in bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding,
Yeah,
I
sure.
knew I had to get in that safely when I, got into recovery.
Not to say that bodybuilding is an
No.
addiction, but there is a lot in the field of bodybuilding.
Because I would work out for 6 hours and then barely eat.
Right.
Because I didn't ever do any. Now I realize I never did anything in a healthy proportion.
Right.
It was on or off.
Right.
There was no high, medium, or low.
Right.
All or nothing.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are the things, because we have about 13 minutes left.
Okay.
So what are some of the things that you've walked through in your recovery in the past 5 years, and some of the realizations you had and tools that you accumulated?
Well, last year I lost my kid's dad to cancer.
Oh, wow.
He was only 44. He had acute myeloid leukemia. And again, he was still, he adopted my kids. I
Right.
always had love and respect for this man. He was still always my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have my kids who just lost their dad.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And it was just, and my daughter did his hospice care, his end of life care. So now that was so hard.
Hard, lots of information, lots of stuff that it's going to kick up in your snow globe, but you didn't drink.
No,
That's because you had what tools?
I had a ton of tools. Sometimes I had to dig all the way to the bottom of the toolbox to find the right one, but I wasn't giving up.
Mm.
And I wasn't going to let.
So tell me some of the tools that you got in recovery, some of the relationships and the ways in which you interact with facing stuff that you feel you've learned in recovery that have helped you now to have a different experience with this kind of big blow up than you would have in the past.
I got faith.
Faith.
I found God. I found a God of my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I always had God, but I had a God that I was taught to believe in.
Mm.
My mom had a God.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a God.
Mm.
So I wrote a want ad to him.
Oh, that's
of what
cute.
he would look like.
Uh-huh.
And of course he'd have dope shoes
Yeah.
and,
Great
they're
hair.
24/7, great hair.
Yeah, has to.
Blowing in the wind,
Yeah.
the whole moment, and had to be there 24/7.
Mm.
And I also got a God box.
Mm.
And I learned to write whatever was going on and put it in the box. And did I do that perfectly at first? Absolutely not. I'd be like, I see you're busy, so I'm just going to take this one. I put it in my pocket, and then I showed my friend, and she's like, keep it in your God box. So
Yeah.
then I had to put my God box in the closet. But slowly over time, I had more reliance on faith, more reliance on God, because I didn't want to run the show. I did a piss poor job of it. I needed help.
Mm.
So I started turning all my will over to God. I opened the door. He went first. And then I lost so many people. I lost my best friend this year. He relapsed and died.
Mm.
And I worked for him. He was my best friend. He was the one that helped me get into rehab. I've had big things that I've lost, but I walked through them in faith. Because God's plan is greater than mine.
And the people that you have, that you've gotten close to.
I have a great unit.
The thing of don't talk that you grew up in.
Oh, I talk all the time now.
You talk all the time.
You can't shut me up now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and you'll talk transparently.
Yeah.
And you'll share about all your wins, all the things you're walking through. And, I mean, even to the level of social media, you'll go, this is what I just did.
Yep.
And this is what just happened. And so that you can be an inspiration to other people who are probably still in the don't talk. I feel like that's one of the reasons I talk. Because I grew up with the don't talk. Mm-hmm. And I feel like one of the reasons that I talk as much as I do is one of the reasons. I have reasons. But one of the reasons is because if I say something that somebody else is just thinking, and they don't have the courage to say it, and I say it in a way that has recovery that can help them to understand what they're not talking about, then maybe it'll help them to find their voice, to be able to have the courage and the clarity to then start speaking about it. Because if I'm speaking about it, it could also tell them that maybe there's no shame in what it is that they're afraid to talk about. Yeah. And if I could do it, I mean, they might think I'm kooky because I'm talking about all the things, but they might at the same time go, wow, like I wish I could do that too. Like I used to.
Somebody talked to me back in the day.
Yeah.
Somebody shared their, experience, strength, and hope with me back in the day.
Yeah.
But
what would a difference that would have been if there was a new, like, if the shame was taken off of it and the guilt was taken off of it, the caring what people think and the fear of judgment was taken off of it. What would have happened if the stigmas were taken off of it and you could just talk and you could just share? And isn't it great in recovery how we have people, and not everybody, right? Because we're there because we're not all there. But like, I mean, there are people that I
would got a couple marbles. I only got a couple marbles.
Yeah, there are people that I wouldn't talk to about stuff that's not healed and recovered yet. Like if I have something come up to heal, there are people that I know that they wouldn't have the headspace to be able to hear it without judgment. Mm-hmm. But you have people, I know you have beautiful people around you in your life.
A lot of beautiful people, and now I help beautiful people, that were going through the same stuff at the same age, and, they reach out to me for help, and I'm like, this is what happened.
And your mom, right?
Yeah.
Your mom has been, like, one of your strongest advocates in your recovery, too.
Yeah, she moved out here.
She came to
Vegas.
groups with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then I fell in love. God has showed me all the signs. Like, it needs to hit me in the face. And I'll be like, okay.
She fell in love with somebody in recovery. Who has amazing recovery.
Amazing recovery. I loved him first.
Yes.
Like, from the moment I heard that man's
you can't not love him.
I was oh my God, he's amazing. And then my mom dropped in his DMs.
Yeah.
And then a couple months later was like, oh, I got flowers.
And now they're like a unit. They have
She's the happiest I've ever seen her in my entire life. She's beautiful. Traveling the world. Yeah. They together just exude the perfect love and example for me. Because he has such amazing
That's so
recovery.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. I love how we think that we're not hurting anybody in our addictions, and then we think, well, we're going to get help and we're going to do something about our addictions, but it really still is just about us. But when we look, the steps we take incrementally have this effect on everybody else, and you just never know. It's just this amazing path. Yeah. I mean, how have you being in recovery helped your children?
Well,
your relationship with your children.
It's getting stronger. Mm-hmm. It's taken some time, and
they're both in the military. Yeah, the military.
They're both in the military, and my son is struggling with his own demons. But I also know that I can't control it. That's been the greatest gift, because if I wasn't in recovery and he's out there whirling and doing the things he is right now, I'd be drinking. I would 100% be drinking, because he's been through some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have a program of recovery, I would definitely be.
And you know what? But you're in the light, because if he knows, like, seeds are planted, that, wow, like, he saw you when you were in your alcoholism, in your active alcoholism, right? And now he's seeing you continuously year after year after year leveling up and finding more peace and more serenity. I mean, your whole glow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you didn't have this glow when your face was, you know, in a bottle.
No,
right?
not at all.
And so he gets to see another mom. He gets to see the mom that's in recovery and that's focused on healing, and the one that keeps believing in God and wanting to do better and be helpful to other people.
Because if it wasn't like my daughter doing her dad's end of life hospice care, she came in and she's like, what if I gave him too much medicine? What if I did this? And I'm like, Taylor, you're not God. And that was all it took.
How beautiful.
But if I didn't
wouldn't
have
have had
God,
the words.
I
You
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
have
the
the
words.
words.
You know, and
Yeah.
my son being like, why did you take my dad? He's only 44. I'm like, God's protecting him and you from something greater than what we know and understand right now, but we'll get to understand it one day. We just have to be patient and trust the process. And sometimes they look at me and shake their head like, who is she?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And patience? Pfft, what was that? I'm like, I got the tall line, not the patience line.
That's
you
cute.
know? But yeah. So my faith has been my main tool.
I have seen you over the past 5 years. I haven't known you as closely over the past 5 years, but I've seen you over the past 5 years, and I also have gotten a great kick out of your mom and her new life and everything. It's just so beautiful. I love all of it. But I've seen you, and I've seen you become softer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also more positive.
Oh, yeah. All my friends are like, you're always positive.
Yeah.
They're
And
like,
they can't
"You're-"
fathom, you know, but you can. You hear your story, and
Yeah.
and you're like laying on a bench with a Glock and alcohol and wanting to die. I mean, obviously there was huge periods of your life when you were not positive.
No, not at all.
But there's a different positive even when you were positive back then, because
Yeah.
a positive that includes don't talk is a still like smoke and mirrors positive. You know, it's stuffing your feelings. It's never let them see you sweat. You know,
Yep.
it's like nobody needs to know what's going on here. Nothing to see. Nothing to see.
Don't look
And so
over here.
even when it's positive, it doesn't go all the way to the core of you.
No.
And like when you're in the right headspace, you know, with surrender and listening and intuitive and whatever, you could tell because you just light all the way up.
Yep.
And that positive resonates.
Yeah. I've never been one that can sit alone with myself and my feelings.
Yeah.
And the other day,
Yeah.
like even it was just a couple weeks ago, and I did like all this stuff and just had like the best day ever just sitting with me. And that's something I never imagined happening.
And you had this moment where you're
I
like,
had-
wow, look what I get to.
I had the best time, and I shared it with everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, I did all this today alone.
Yeah.
No TV,
Yeah.
soft music,
Yeah.
journaling,
Yeah.
no social media,
Yeah.
just me.
I did that with relationships where I couldn't be alone until
Yeah.
I finally, people were like, oh, you need to learn to be alone. And I'm like, yeah. And then
That's-
finally I was like, I was alone and by choice. And oh my God, I was like, I exhaled and I was like, I've been running from this. What was I running from?
I've been a runner my whole life.
So this is beautiful. I'm so glad you came on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, I love this. I love all the little nuggets that you shared and your journey. I love that your childhood was great. I love that because, you know, there's so many people that talk about how, you know, crappy the childhood was or, you know, feel like they can't identify with somebody who maybe has like had a good childhood. Oh, well, I don't know what that's like. But there are also people who say, well, my childhood was so good. You know, there's nothing to see there. You know, and it's like, well, it didn't have to be bad. It just had to have something that the mind accepted as true of how we're supposed to proceed in life that can make us set the foundation for us to not be able to live life on life's terms, especially when there's an avalanche of information and stuff happening, you know, when life's in session and we don't have any clue of how to handle it. It's like, all right, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm out. I don't have, this is just, you know, one more thing. Okay, there's the one more thing. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Anywhere but here, anytime but now, anybody but me. Ciao.
So true.
Ciao,
Yeah.
Bella. Not happening. And there are moments, right? There are moments when stuff happens in recovery
Oh, yeah.
and we go, oh my God, the mind goes, gone. The mind goes, get out. That's it. We're not doing this. I can't handle this. This is too much. But recovery steps in and goes, no, it's not.
We're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're
There
doing
isn't
it.
another option.
Nope.
It's 1 foot at a time, 1 moment at a time, being present 1 day at a time.
Sometimes 1 minute at a time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us
You're
on the
so
Real
welcome.
Recovery Show, and thank you. Please remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the person who shared them and do not represent any 12-step program or are meant to replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. And we're going to have a conversation about bodybuilding now, and so we'll see you next week.